The Monster Hunter Wilds open beta took place from the 1st of November for a few days, running across all 3 platforms for Xbox, Steam PC, and PS5. It included the first story mission up against a Chatakabra, then a quest to take down an Alpha Doshaguma, before opening up the Windward Plains, giving you free reign to take on more quests as you wish, further adding the Balahara and Raid Dao to the roster. We also had full unrestricted access to all 14 of the weapons in the game. Whilst there may still be some further balancing to do, we can comfortably assume that these are the final iterations of these weapons. Of course, what that means is we need to break down these weapons with full weapon overviews. I'll be providing a full guide and tutorial on how to use these weapons properly and go over all of the new moves and combos that they have. This video is designed for both those of you who have never played Chargeblade before in any of the Monster Hunter games, and equally those of you who are already indoctrinated into the Church of Chargeblade, looking to understand the new combos and moves available in this iteration of it. I've done a full tier list arbitrarily ranking all 14 of the weapons, based overall on how I feel about these new iterations of them. That might be something you want to check out after this, and very quickly, we're currently sitting at around 80% unsubscribed viewers on the channel, with the majority of you returning from shorts or otherwise. If you enjoy the videos, do subscribe, and with that said, let's jump in. The Chargeblade is a transforming weapon with 2 distinct modes, the Sword and Shield form and the giant 2-handed axe form. The Sword and Shield mode offering better mobility, and the option to effectively use your shield for guarding, with the axe mode being a slower, harder hitting, damage dealing form. Your core 3 input combo is with triangle or Y, quickly firing off the weak slash, return stroke and round slash in a 3-hit combo. As well as the mobility and access to your guarding capabilities, Sword and Shield actually serves another function, its primary function, which is to build up charge. Landing your regular sword strikes against monsters will do this to a small degree. You will see this charge build up around your files as an indication of what level you're at. When they're glowing yellow, that's at level 1, and when glowing red, that's at level 2 and is maxed out. Any further and it'll be pulsing red hot to signify that it's overcharged, at which point your sword strikes will bounce off enemies, which you don't want. When holding down your charge with R2 or right trigger, you can then press circle or B to store the charge in your files. A new addition to Wilds is that if you hold down charge, you will automatically use these newly stored files to power up your shield, an important part of the Chargeblade setup to give you access to additional moves and to increase the weapon's power. More on that in just a second. Let's take a step back. If you store the files whilst you're at yellow charge, you will store 3 files. If you do it whilst you're at red charge, you will store all 5, which is really what you want to do. Building up charge with your regular 3-hit attack is a very inefficient way to do so. It's more of a happy accident that it builds up some charge. You have a specific attack that you can do, designed to quickly and efficiently build up charge. This attack is the charged double slash, initiated by holding down circle or B until the sword pulls back and glows red. Let go too early and you'll do a single swing for an ineffective amount of charge. After one charged double slash and the follow-up round slash, you're practically there. Another charged slash or a combination of other strikes and you'll be at red charge level. So back to what we were saying before about charging up your shield and why you'd want to do that. Well, firstly, it looks badass, enough said in it, but more importantly, it also powers up your blocking capabilities with the shield, and much more importantly, increases the damage of your axe attacks. This was at least the case in the previous games, we can assume it is for this one. It is also a requirement for your shield to be charged to unleash the SAED attack. We'll come back to that too. From the file charge, you're also able to hold down triangle or Y to start charging up the condensed element slash. Once your sword clicks into your shield, let go, and you'll deal a strong attack whilst also charging up your sword, adding your weapon's file effects to your sword strikes, which in this case is some additional damage but also the stun effect. Purely optional, but a lot of players don't even bother with this at all. Another newly introduced feature to Wilds is that you can actually double charge your files, denoted by the yellow glowing filled up files with that small crown on the top. Think of files as fuel for your weapon to unleash some pretty powerful attacks. Double charging them makes them even more effective and is something you absolutely want to go out of your way to do. Let's take a look at the axe form. To transform from sword and shield into the axe, you can just press R2 with your weapon sheathed, or whilst you have the sword and shield out, hold down guard and press triangle. You can swing it up and down with a rising slash and overhead slash, with additional variations available if you're holding down the left stick, namely the gap closing dash slam, the sidestepping lateral lateral fade slash, and the distance creating backstep slash, forward, sideways, and backwards respectively on the left stick. You'll notice how hard these attacks hit, especially compared to the sword and shield form. Very powerful swings, but it only starts to truly dish out pain when you're doing attacks that utilize your files. By pressing circle or B, you can do the element discharge combo string, doing relatively quick hitting, far-reaching horizontal swings with the axe, unleashing files for additional damage and KO. This combo's been juiced up from the previous titles. After elemental discharge 1, you've then got 2, and then it follows up with the amped element discharge, AED, each consuming a single file. Now you have this super sexy, crunchy amped element discharge follow-up swing, like an element discharge 3 you could think of it as, allowing you to loop right back around into element discharge 1 if you wish to. This new combo makes me a little lancy in my pantsy. After the AED, you can instead go into the super amped element discharge, the SAED, winding your axe back and lunging forward with a big slam, unloading all of your files for massive damage. This can only be done after the amped element discharge when your shield is actively charged. You also have to follow this process to get to the SAED, unlike the previous games where you can get there pretty quickly from various other means at will. You can also go into an SAED after a perfect guard or a guard point, which are effectively the same thing in Wilds. An interesting shift away from SAED, both in the ease of using it in the first place and in the tremendous buff the element discharge combo has received. There's one more big power up we need to talk about, which you can see on your Chargeblade UI, that has a drastic impact on the weapon and the implications behind it as well. But first, it's very much so worth mentioning that the sword and board mode has some very good mobility attacks you can utilize. Pressing triangle and circle or Y and B allows you to do a forward slash, slightly gap closing with a forward step and a swing of the sword. After this, various other attacks and your hops in between attacks, you can hold down a directional input and press circle or B to do a fade slash, which will see you slide across and then swing your sword. It actually ends with a guard point here where you're holding your shield in front of you. You'll notice a very quick white glow on the shield. If struck during that, you will auto perfect block the attack, if that makes sense. There's another really easy one to do when you're transforming your weapon into the axe form from sword and shield. That's typically the one people go for when they're trying to actively get the guard point. The final charged up state we need to talk about is Power Axe, colloquially referred to as Savage Axe by the community. A bit like how SAED now needs to jump through certain process order, Savage Axe has seen the same treatment. Power Axe mode transforms the weapon in axe form so that the head of the axe starts spinning like a pizza cutter. You can only get into Savage Axe in specific situations: after perfect guarding or guard pointing, after activating a power clash, using your focus strike to consume a wound, or by doing your mount finisher. Perfect guarding and using a focus strike on wounds are the most accessible ones. So why do we want to activate Savage Axe? What does it do? Holding down your attack inputs while striking causes the strikes to shred through for additional ticks of damage, and isn't applied passively like it is in World. But here's what's really interesting about Power Axe mode. It now heavily decreases your file usage. The first and second elemental discharge strikes will consume 0 files, with the amped element discharge and amped element discharge follow-up consuming half a file each, meaning that the full combo chain with Power Axe enabled will use up 1 whole file. Absolutely mental. And remember, you can double charge your files so you get so much extra bang for your buck out of them too, further moving us away from the SAED playstyle again. But don't completely discount SAED, it's still very strong, especially with double charged files. It unleashes absolute devastation, so utilize it as part of your kit. Just remember that you do have to have your shield charged in order to do it. So overall, we're seeing this new direction, this new process order with a weapon. The huge one here is that Savage Axe mode is now an absolute essential to get the most out of your elemental discharge combo strings. And the other massive game changer here is double charging your files, introducing a really interesting dynamic. Do you want to devote that extra time and resource into powering up those files further? Pretty cool. I know some people will be bummed that you have to jump through extra hoops to get to the SAED. That's perfectly valid, but it is still there and it does still pack a massive punch. Whilst not completely exhaustive, this comprehensive guide should give you all of the core skills you need to go out there and be an absolute badass with the Chargeblade. I'm going to leave you with a fight against a Chatacabra, showing off what the weapon can do in a more natural environment. Just keep in mind I was using this for recording, so I might be trying to force certain attacks out so I can get them recorded, etc. Poor Froggy Boy, I killed so many Chatacabras over the beta. If you've got any further questions or additional tips, do feel free to leave them in the comments. I would love to hear from you. As mentioned at the start, the channel's currently sitting at around 80% unsubscribed viewers, with the majority of you returning from shorts or other guides. If you enjoy the videos, do subscribe. But thank you for watching, enjoy the hunt, and until next next time, I'll see you in the Forbidden Lands.
Looks like the monster dropped something.